Hi everyone, and welcome to another Future Design Forum 10-minute fireside Q&A hosted by myself, Andy Smith of TDA Creative, the design and product talent agency. I'm absolutely delighted today to be joined by Zack Gottlieb, who is currently the head of product design at Snowflake in San Francisco. Zack, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Andrew. Looking forward to it.
Great. Before we crack into a few kind of quick fire questions, would you mind giving us a little overview of your very impressive career to date to Snowflake?
Sure. I think my career has spanned a lot of different types of work. Everything from being, early on in the web as a consultant working at places like Sapient and MetaDesign, a well-known European design agency, to then becoming, in-house product. I was lucky enough to get in relatively early at Uber and did a whole lot of work there, about 5 years, and then was able to transition into Atlassian, which is a very, very different type of experience, going from Uber, which was very uh, um, uh, consumer centric, right, and
Yep.
going to like an Atlassian, which is very much in the enterprise world, as they were making that big transition. And then now I'm at Snowflake, which was another kind of interesting foray into now data and AI and where I think the world and the trends are going. So been really lucky just to try out a lot of different things. And I think, if you look at all the thematically, what I've focused on across my entire career is just trying to think, what's the next 5 years going to look like, and what skills do I need to thrive in that world that I think is coming on the horizon.
That's fantastic. And certainly, I know we just mentioned off video that Snowflake are sponsoring the Olympics, and the data around that's going to be pretty amazing. So that's an exciting journey for sure.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Good. Okay. And during that career, which as I said is super impressive, I love the diversity of the companies you've worked at. What are you most proud of to date, would you say, in your career as a design leader?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple, and I think it all depends on what area you're looking at. I think that there's two things that really stand out for me right now, and one is it takes a long time to actually have a really big impact that you can point to, where it has, you can look at like little moments in time, but I think when you look at things that actually disrupt the system as a whole, or improve the system, those things take time. And one of the things that I was not able to be at Atlassian when they were just announced it. MCB or Mike Cannon Brooks just announced at their last team conference the new design system and all the things that's enabled. Well, that goes back like 4+ years to when we were just trying to really get the design system going, and we had to make a pretty massive investment to make that actually happen and convince a lot of executives that the design system mattered, and it was going to kind of be the tip of the spear for so many things, from accessibility to rebranding. And to see that kind of come to fruition, and especially with a CEO talking about design systems, that was pretty amazing to see. And you just know all the so many people and so much time and effort went into making that possible. But that was one of the big things I really spent a ton of time and energy putting in place at Atlassian, and to see that kind of come to fruition is always exciting. I think so that's like the things that take longer. I think short term at Snowflake, I've only been here for, I think I'm going into my sixth quarter. I think we're just building an incredible team. When I look at the speed of how we reorganize the team and the type of talent and skill sets we're bringing in, I'm really excited. I think we are poised to do some incredible work. And I always think that things take too long, but I'm actually looking back, really surprised at how quickly we've been able to make this happen. And a lot of it really goes to, we've just been able to bring in some incredible leaders, and some both from manager standpoint and also IC standpoint. And
Yeah.
when it all comes together, you can see it. It's all going to come to fruition very soon. So I'm really happy with that as well.
Great. Okay. And you just led me very nicely onto my next question, actually, which is it's obviously quite a topical one. But with the onset of AI, do you see a shift in skill set needed for certain design roles? And even are we going to see completely new roles within the design ecosystem in the near future?
Yeah, I think this is with AI, the onset of AI. I think, we're going to look back in a few years and kind of laugh at some of the assumptions or hypotheses we made. But looking at where I think the trends are going, I definitely think there's going to be some emerging skills that are going to be coming more to the forefront. I think we're going to move around away from screen design and think much more about systems. And because with AI-driven experiences, right, you're going to move from the static screens to like much more adaptive, intelligent systems. So I think designers really need to think about how these things manifest across many different surfaces and behaviors. I think this idea of data literacy, which we're very much is ingrained here at Snowflake, and also prompt crafting, I think are going to be some new skills that people are already talking about them, but I think
Yeah.
really understanding that multimodal design is going to become a new thing because AI can exist in many different places. So from voice to the screen, I think it's just going to change where people are and how people are interacting. So thinking about those things.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
also just this prototyping with AI, right? That's the one people are really focusing on right now. What is that going to mean for designers? I don't think design is going to go away. I think what's going to happen, or design or engineering, I think you're going to see much more of a blending and bringing these experiences or these skill sets together.
Yeah.
But it's evolving at a really fast pace, and so um, it's I think those are the things that I see on the horizon right now. But give me another year, it probably is going to change a lot. Oh, and one other thing is like we didn't talk about is just the idea of ethics, right? Like user experience ethics are going to be really, really important because we want to make sure that AI experiences are trustworthy and fair and they align with brand and ethical standards. So I
Yeah.
think that's another skill set that we haven't talked about, but that's an emerging one that I see.
Yeah. I love that. And again, that kind of fits in with that cross-product side as well, doesn't it? Because that's not just sitting in design when we talk about the ethical side of what we're producing.
Yeah, we're all responsible.
Great. Love it. Okay. Thank you. And can you give some tips for design leaders on how to and how you feel you've been successful in elevating design within organizations?
Yeah. Well, I think there's a couple things that I always try to um, bring into the boardroom, so to speak. One, look, you got to understand the business. It's very hard to be a design leader if you don't actually understand the business and how you make money and how the systems work. I think the second, but you don't have to be the business leader. You just have to understand it. Um, I think for earlier on in my career, I was really worried about I had to have all the exact same skills as everybody else in the room. What I realized is actually that's not where you're there. What you do is you actually bring a very different point of view in many types of situations, and that's actually where the magic can happen. Is when I always thought of myself as trying to raise the consciousness of the business to different ways of doing things, and when you do that, when you have the support to speak up and people listen, you can actually get to some really great places. But I think you got to have those two pieces is, the business side, but also not being afraid to bring the alternative views and bring that alternative view often, because I think that's really where a big value of design happens is just being able to show people different ways of doing things and explore that,
Yeah.
right?
Brilliant. Okay. Thank you. And again, it kind of sinks in with the next question then. Um, what's your approach to working with, building relationships, working alongside executive stakeholders, and aligning design to business strategy?
Yeah, that's a we could do a whole podcast on that. Um, Look, I think it goes back to one, you do need to understand that business piece.
Yeah.
You want to understand what people care about. That's the strategic side of really spending the time to understand the different players. It's not just about the business, it's about the people that are in the business and their
Mm,
points of view. And once you understand where they're coming from, you can actually start to craft a strategy or the right conversation to help them see the opportunities. Um, I think also, look, design has to get ahead of things, and a lot of what we do is kind of build the vision or the north star for what potentially could happen. Not that this is what we need to go do, but potentially what something could look like, and that getting executives out of the documents, right? We like to write a lot of documents, but words never really convey what an experience should be. And so making sure that you can find the opportunities to showcase what that could look like, that's where I've seen a lot of executives they gravitate towards, oh yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Or no, it's not like this, but they start to talk about the experience and rather than just the pure business side. And
yeah.
that's where you get people engaged. If you just stay in the documents, and this is Atlassian for a long time, everything because it's a document company, right? It's like you got Jira and you got Confluence and everything's documented. And teams spend so much time in the documentation and try to get alignment around that that sometimes you lose sight of, no, let's just talk about the experience and bringing that word to the forefront. That's where you're able to really influence. If you stay at the document level, it's going to be very, very hard.
I love that. And just going back to what you said there about stakeholders, learning and trying to understand, and I guess it goes back to empathy about, which is a word often used in design, but what they care about. Often it's probably building an emotional connection, right? It's not one size fits all. A stakeholder at one company to another. It's not just about ROI or what the business is trying to achieve. It's what the individual cares about. So building that emotional connection with your stakeholders, I guess, is quite key.
Absolutely. You'd be amazed at the things you can do when you show someone something, and it's the magic, right? Sometimes I've shown stakeholders things, comps, or just things, beautiful motion design, well branded experiences, and their responses. They look at me like, "How did you do this?" Like, and then that actually is with the thing that derives a really big conversation around, well, it should be this or that. But that magic of, oh yeah, this is the experience I'm looking for. I think that's where some of the excitement outside of just being an executive can happen.
Love it. Thanks, Zach. Look, you've given us some great insights there. Really enjoyed the chat. But as always, I want to finish with a little curveball question, which is likely non-work related, but you never know. Can you tell us something that few people know about you?
Oh, something few people know about me. I think people will be surprised to know, except for the people who are really close to me, I'm a complete introvert. It takes a lot, which is kind of interesting as the design leader or just a leader in general. You expect all your leaders to be extroverts. I can do it, but it takes an enormous amount of energy. So I actually like to spend a lot of time by myself, recharging and thinking. That's actually where I think I do my best work. That's why I was a big bike rider for many years. Like
I
I
was
always
just thinking that about your bike ride, and you said 8 hours climbing mountains on bikes. That's the time to probably think and get inside
Yeah.
yourself a little bit, right?
Yeah, absolutely. There was an interview with Willie Nelson, who's this very well known songwriter, country songwriter, and they were asking him, you wrote these three hits. He wrote these huge hits, all three of them within a week, early in his career, and they were asking, well, what's your writing process? And he's like, when I need to write a song, I get in the car. Doesn't matter where I'm going, but I get in the car because when you get in the car, your brain goes onto that. At a certain point, it becomes automatic, right? You forget that you're driving. You're still doing it, but your brain is at a different level. It's the same thing on the bike for me, which is that's where you really start to tap into that subconscious a bit more and become more aware of it. And that's where you can do some incredible thinking and figuring things out. I've always had my best ideas on the bike. I've always figured out the most gnarly, complex problems on the bike or doing something, hiking or by myself,
Yeah,
in those moments. So that's how I recharge. But I guess I recharge, but I'm still working.
I love it. Well, I think there's further insights and advice there as well. Zach, thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. Look forward to seeing you on future TDA events and talks, and we'll catch up again soon.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me, Andrew. That was fun.
Cheers, Zach.